Back with inventor and futurologist Ray Kurzweil. 5 years old, he knew he wanted to be an inventor. At 12, you found your way to a computer. Was it your grandfather that was actually working with original Leonardo da Vinci manuscripts?
Well, my grandfather came back from Europe, having actually had the occasion to touch some of da Vinci's manuscripts, and he described it in almost reverential terms. So that was kind of the philosophy of my family: respect for human knowledge and ideas, the fact that any problem you encounter, a life problem or a technical problem, there are ideas out there that you can find and overcome those problems. So that's been kind of a philosophy that's guided my life.
Which is odd, or maybe even more meaningful, seeing that your family escaped Nazi Germany in 1938.
Yeah, they overcame that problem, and I've overcome problems in my life, medical problems or technological problems, business issues. Usually I've been able to find the solution to a problem, and if you look for the right ideas. So the power of human ideas can really, I think, overcome any challenge.
At any time do you, because I do, I look at the TV and I look at these clowns in Washington and I just start screaming at the TV because I'm like, get out of people's way. Just let people, inventors, thinkers, just let them go. It'll either work or it won't work, but people are amazing, the things they can come up with if they just aren't restricted. I mean, you know, you got to have common sense stuff, but I mean, you know what I mean?
Well, I agree. I think the power of entrepreneurship and invention can really overcome age-old problems that we're facing, like the environment, energy, health, even poverty. The World Bank reported that poverty in Asia has been cut in half because of information technology over the last decade, and will be cut by 90% because of information technology over the next decade. Africa is actually not far behind. Cell phones are ubiquitous in Africa. The internet is invading Africa, jump-starting a health system and an educational system.
Do you think it's possible to go back to these repressive governments with the information technology that is out there? I mean, how come China hasn't collapsed on itself?
Well, I mean, there's some 60 million blogs in China, so the democratizing power of decentralized electronic communication, like the internet, is very powerful, and it's in China, it's everywhere, and it really is very democratizing. I wrote in the 1980s that the Soviet Union was doomed because of the decentralized electronic communication, the fax machines and the early email over teletype machines, and that's what we saw in the coup against Gorbachev in 1991. So the paradigm of grabbing the centralized radio and TV station and keeping everybody in the dark didn't work anymore. And I think that's been behind the democratization we saw in the 90s.
So now you're sitting on a plane, I don't know how many years ago, you're sitting on a plane and you're sitting next to a blind man. And obviously he's blind, can't read, you know, any of the magazines or et cetera, et cetera. You leave the plane, tell the story, what happened?
I had a technology that could recognize printed letters, but it was kind of a solution in search of a problem. We didn't know what it was good for. So this guy happened to be blind, said, blindness is not a handicap. I can do anything. I'm traveling around the world. But then he corrected himself and says, well, actually, one thing I can't do is read current material, like my office memos. And so we decided to devote that technology, character recognition, to build a reading machine for the blind.
Okay, and you've got a new thing we're going to show in just a little while. But this brought you to Stevie Wonder.
It's actually a good idea of the exponential growth of technology, because that first reading machine, which we introduced in '76, was the size of a washing machine, and now it's a 4-ounce cell phone.
Yeah, this is, I mean, yeah. Look at this. I mean,
so that's 5,000 times smaller, and actually a lot better and a lot cheaper. And so,
okay.
So that's the nature of information technology. And Stevie Wonder was our first customer
of the reading machine.
Of the reading machine in '76, and then we became friends, and he challenged me to combine the worlds of acoustic music and electronic music, and that led to another project, Kurzweil Music Systems, where we created the first music synthesizer that could recreate the grand piano.
Never put it together. I have seen, I mean, I can see it in my mind's eye, the black piano, the black electronic piano with Kurzweil on the back. Never put it together that you're the guy who did that.
That's one of my projects. Yeah.
Yeah. you say that when a child who's born today will not face disease in the future.
We are now undergoing a profound transformation where medicine biology is no longer hit or miss. It's an information technology. We have outdated software running in our bodies.
What does that mean?
Well, 23,000 software programs called genes evolved thousands of years ago when conditions are very different. I'll give you one example out of 23,000. One gene called the fat insulin receptor gene says, hold on to every calorie because the next hunting season may not work out so well. That was a great idea 1,000 years ago, and it's a terrible idea today. It underlies an epidemic of obesity. When that gene was turned off in animals, these animals ate a lot and remained slim. They didn't get diabetes, they didn't get heart disease, they lived 20% longer. They got the health benefits of caloric restriction while doing the opposite. And there are several pharmaceutical companies rushing to bring that to the human market. And we have a new technology, RNA interference, that can turn genes off. And we've identified other genes that promote disease and aging that we'd like to turn off.
May I be a test person for the fat thing? No, seriously.
Yeah, well, that's coming.
And there's America would thank you for that.
There's over 1,000 drugs in the development pipeline using this technique of RNA interference. We have new forms of gene therapy that can add new genes. So we're reprogramming this outdated software. It's a whole new thing.
Coming up in just a second, Ray Kurzweil will be back. The secret to reversing diabetes and his plans to live forever. Not kidding you. He says he's never going to die. Coming, I got a bus waiting for him outside.
Pills a day. To
do you ever just kick back and go, I couldn't have another pill? Undo your belt?
It's not a big deal.
No?
I do it while checking emails. So.
Right. Okay.
But I wrote a book with a doctor, Dr. Terry Grossman, that talks about 3 bridges to radical life extension. Bridge 1 is this stuff that we can do right now to keep us healthy. I mean, I'm 60 years old, but I'm biologically much younger. To keep us young and healthy until we get the next bridge, which is the full flowering of this biotechnology revolution, where it can really reprogram this outdated software that runs in our bodies.
Okay, so you also do, and I read this and I said to my wife, I said, honey, exercise in 4 minutes. This is perfect. And she said, you can't exercise in 4 minutes. You use it. Well, there it is. It's this contraption. 4 minutes of exercise?
Well, I don't actually buy that either. I do it for 4 minutes, but I've added it to my other routine. So I still walk and I still work out with weights.
I mean, why would you do that for 4 minutes and then add?
Well, it's actually a good 4 minutes. If you're only going to exercise 4 minutes, I recommend that. But
that's about all I could squeeze in. I can't do any more than that. You talk a little bit about that we're going to be able to change our body. We'll go reprogram the outdated genes and the code in us. How does that outdated genes and the code in us? How does that not lead to discrimination or, ooh, sorry, you're an old model and I can't get you insurance or any of this stuff?
Well, we're going to have 80-year-olds who look and act 35 or 40, and so they're going to be quite vital. These technologies are unaffordable only when they don't work. Remember cell phones 15 years ago? They didn't work and they were unaffordable. Now there are 3 billion cell phones in the world, and they're ubiquitous in Africa, and they're very inexpensive, and they work quite well. Same with AIDS drugs. They cost $30,000 per patient per year 15 years ago and didn't work very well. Now it's $100 per patient per year in sub-Saharan Africa. So by the time these technologies work well, they're very inexpensive and ultimately quite ubiquitous. And we're going to have other technologies that will enable us to support a much larger biological population.
Okay. When we come back, the future of energy, the answer to our fossil fuel crisis and global warming. Don't go away. We are spending an incredible hour with Ray Kurzweil. I'm not kidding you. I read a book of his about 10 years ago, tried to get him on my then Slug radio program, and I think the answer was like, who are you? So I've been waiting to talk to him for a long time. Inventor, entrepreneur, best-selling author. This guy is amazing. I want to talk to you a little bit about, first, let's start with global warming. Do you buy into global warming?
Well, we've had 1 degree Fahrenheit of warming in the last 100 years, and it's increasing. But we're going to do away, in my opinion, with fossil fuels within 20 years, with renewables like solar, which are on their own exponential progression.
Hang on just a second. Let me go back, because you're a smart guy. Let's focus on the global warming. We have had global warming. It has stopped since 1999. Now they're saying it's going to take another hiatus for another 15 or so years. Is the Al Gore stuff scare tactics? Is it real? I mean, this week, Jupiter, Mars, Titan, Pluto, they're saying all have global warming or climate change on those planets, yet we're the only one that's man-made?
Well, I'm not a fan of fossil fuels, but it's not primarily because of global warming. It's really these other forms of pollution in the extraction and shipment of fossil fuels and burning it and so on.
Okay.
And also it has geopolitical effects. And
oh, yeah, it's a nightmare.
And it's expensive. So it's very easy to dismiss technologies when they're at the early part of the exponential. We're doubling the amount of solar energy every 2 years. We're only 7 doublings away from it meeting 100% of our energy needs. And you might say, do we really have enough sunlight? The answer is we have 10,000 times more than we need. Well, you know, if we captured 1 part in 10,000 of the sunlight, we'd meet all of our energy needs. And we will be able to do that with these new nano-engineered solar panels.
All right, so tell me how this works, because where's Mike? Mike's behind camera 1 here. How much was it, Mike? 68,000? 68. Mike's got a house. He just tried to, you know, how do I outfit for a solar panel? $68,000 to do it.
Solar panels are still an old industrial technology. There's billions of dollars of venture capital going into a new generation of nano-engineered solar panels that are much more efficient. And I just worked on this actually with Larry Page of Google on a National Academy of Engineering Blue Ribbon panel, and we came up with a plan. We believe we're less than 5 years away from a tipping point where the cost per watt from solar energy will be less than the cost per watt from coal and oil. And so then even if you don't care about any of the environmental effects, it's just the economic incentives will be there to switch over from fossil fuels.
When you say the singularity is coming, the name of one of your books, what does that mean exactly?
Well, singularity is a metaphor meaning a profound singular change, and ultimately our machines are going to be more intelligent than unaided human intelligence, and we're going to merge with that technology and become smarter. And that's such a profound transformation of human civilization that we call that a singularity.
Are you a spiritual guy?
I believe in the power of ideas. I mean, I think that's...
Okay.
I think that's a spiritual
right,
idea.
Okay. Because there's a lot of people, and some people, I'm religious, and I feel this something coming. And I think you could talk to just about anybody that they feel something coming. Is that, in your words, would it be the singularity? Would it be that tipping point where everything is just going to start changing?
Well, the singularity is a pretty profound transformation. So if people believe that there's something profound coming, that would fit the bill. But it's going to come from our technology, which is going to explode exponentially. Exponential growth is quite explosive. People think linearly, 1, 2, 3, and 30 steps later you're 30, but the reality of information technology is it's going 2, 4, 8, 16, and 30 steps later you're at 1 billion. So this exponential growth of computers and communications and also technologies like solar energy is going to ultimately be very explosive.